Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of this special series of the Same Old Arsenal podcast, What Arsenal Means to Me. Well, this is the penultimate one because the last one is on Tuesday and I'll be discussing that later in the show. But what a brilliant guest to have on episode 6. Ex-Arsenal player, my friend as well, Mr. David Hillier. Welcome to the show.
Hello, jazz hands. Yeah,
Let's do
happy to
jazz
be here.
hands.
Nice to see you. Nice little Christmas gift for me.
Oh, it's so nice. We've just not spoken in so long, have we? And it's just nice. I asked you to come on weeks and weeks ago on this. You were one of my first in my head going, right, I want Dave to come on. And you said yes. So honestly, I am so appreciative of it. So welcome.
No
And
problem.
welcome to everyone in the chat room. Hello, good evening on this absolutely another freezing night. Wherever you are in the south of England, I think you're freezing. I'm fed up with it. I haven't stopped moaning about it, scraping my car at 7 o'clock in the morning and feeling cold all day. But stay with us and hopefully we'll warm you up with all this wonderful Arsenal chat. Please press like, please press subscribe, and let's get on with the chat. David.
Excuse me.
Bless you. David, it's going to be a bit different, some of the question answers, because obviously you played for Arsenal and you're not just a fan as such. So it's going to be interesting to see what you say.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how I interpret them as well, because I don't, like you said, it's not necessarily, some of them might not be from a football point of view. They might be from friendship or something like that.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, David, just tell everyone, was you an Arsenal fan? Did you just play for Arsenal for a career? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think originally, before I played for Arsenal, I was definitely an Arsenal fan. But
Yeah.
I wasn't really a dedicated fan to any team through my younger years because I was playing so much. I
Yeah.
trained at Millwall and at Charlton and Arsenal at the same time when you could back then. And it wasn't until I was 14 that I had to make a decision. And then when I made that decision to sign Schoolboys for Arsenal, then I really fell in love with it from day one. Then as a fan. So look, now if you ask me, yeah, 100%, I support Arsenal.
Okay, so what year was that?
So that was, I signed in 83.
Yeah.
As a 14-year-old. Yeah, 40 years ago in 2 days. Well, yeah, actually tomorrow, because I signed on the 17th of December.
Oh, wow.
1983. So yeah, it's nearly a big anniversary tomorrow, I suppose. Never thought about it like that. 40 years. Yeah, and literally up until 10 days before that, I was going to sign for Charlton. But my coach at Charlton passed away on the, I think it was the 6th or 7th of December, a week before I was due to sign. And he was the reason why I wanted to stay at Charlton. And I had no reason to stay there, so I signed for Arsenal.
Wow, just like it was meant to be, wasn't it? Okay, so first game memory and first game attended is a bit weird. So let's go first game played then, I think, for you.
We can do the memory and the attended, because if you want to do them later, it's...
No, it's fine. I just thought it might be a bit odd first game attended because you probably were on the pitch.
No, I wasn't actually. No, I wasn't.
Go on.
The first game I attended was when I signed, when I was 14. First football match I'd been to proper. I've been to a couple of Millwall games and stood on the terraces, but I went to the director's box and had them. Obviously, I signed my Schoolboys. I went down on the pitch with Charlie Nicholas before the game and had some photos done. And I've tried to dig them out, but I think my mum's got them, so I was going to show you them, but. And it's Charlie Nicholas in his tiny little shorts.
He was my
kicking a ball with me on the pitch. Yeah. Well, he was the one I chose to have my pictures done with. And it was against Watford. And we went and sat in the box, and I was 2 seats away from the now Sir Elton John, sitting next to him.
Wow.
I think we beat him. Arsenal won 3-1. So that was my first game memory and my first game attended. So you got in one there, look, bonus.
Wow, 83. So I would have been there. I would have been just down from you, not in the director's box, in Block E, which is 2 blocks along. It's funny, isn't it? Thinking back to 1983.
Yeah. Well, that's where
How
we used to
old-
get our complimentary tickets for the East Upper. So that was you on the East stand.
Yeah, East Upper.
Yeah, we was in the East Upper. Yeah, that's where we used to sit with our comps. So yeah,
Really?
a long time ago. Yeah, all the players would have sat up there. You'd have been sitting amongst them all without knowing as kids. Look,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
we all
but I
sat
think
there.
maybe a bit more central. Maybe you were because I was on the wing
Yeah,
block. But
we was central. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so if I'd have gone like that, I'd have seen you. But I just looked left, I'd have seen you. Wow. And do you know what? We were talking about Highbury the other day, and we'll get into that in a second. Okay, so favourite ever home game and favourite ever away game?
Yeah, again, it's tough to kind of pull things out for the actual. There's different reasons. My favourite ever home game has got to be when we won the league at home, 6-1, Coventry. I think just the feeling after that game, I will never have again. I will never have again because that was just, unbelievable. Yeah, so that game for me, and then there was shenanigans in the tunnel with some of the staff. They tried to egg us
No.
yeah, egg and flour us, yeah, and there was beers. Yeah, it was really funny. We had a really good crack. It reminded you of how close everyone at the club was,
Yeah.
that you felt you could do that. All the players and the wives were there, and it was all, yeah, everybody all in. So that was my favourite ever home game. My favourite ever away game is because I played well. So I've gone a bit narcissistic and just decided, no, I played well, so that's the one I'm going to pick. And it
Go
was a
on.
bore draw. It was a 0-0 draw, but I played really well and
Oh,
got man of the match. And I was quite proud against Torino away in the European Cup Winners' Cup.
what year was that?
So that would have been the year after we won. I think it was 93, 92, 92, 92.
92. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was
it was before
92.
we won in the 94 final when we won in Copenhagen.
Yeah, it was against. So we played. Actually, I think it might have been, from memory, it might have been the UEFA Cup rather than the Cup Winners' Cup, because I
Well,
think
anyone
we
in the
got
chat room, can you have a look for me and tell me?
Yeah.
Because this is what I have to do. What year was it? Torino.
No, it was.
If
It was
Danny was
definitely.
here, tell
It
us.
was nine. It was 92 because after we won the league, it was 92. And I know it was
92.
92. Yeah, it was 92. So yeah, so I played that game, and I've got like this radio in the shape of a football from the Italian sponsor. I don't know where that is now, but it had a cassette player in it. That's how old it was. But yeah, so I picked that as my favourite game. I marked Benito Carboni. You might remember him, who came over here and signed after that. Yeah, he played over here for a while. So yeah, and it was a really good game, and we battered them at home. I think it went through.
It's just so mad, isn't it, to think about the thousands of games that I've probably attended, you've probably watched and played in so many. And honestly, it's bizarre to think how many games I've watched over the years, especially going to Highbury since probably mid to late 70s, and then having a season ticket from the 80s. And we're like in 2023 nearly.
Yeah,
Oh my God, it's madness.
all of my memories though, when I was going through them, they all migrate back to Highbury. None of them have really crossed over, obviously because I didn't play at the Emirates. But
Yeah.
I think just as a place for me, Highbury just holds a different. It's on a different level, and the memories there were on a different level. And I don't think those memories they can't be made again.
No.
Not in football. Not in football. Because some of them are unprintable.
It's very weird that everyone that's been to Highbury says that, David. Everyone, the Emirates doesn't match it, and it never will. It's got better, definitely, with the atmosphere, and the ground is lovely, and they're starting to do things, but it's never going to be Highbury, is it? Ever?
No, I mean the stadium, the acoustics, everything about the Emirates is fantastic. It's an experience. It's a really good football day out, and as you mentioned, with the fans as buoyant as they are now, I mean, just before the game, it gets your pulses racing again, which is great, and it continues throughout the game. So it's been a really nice place to go this season.
Absolutely, I will get onto that. Favorite manager or first manager? So why I called it first manager was for people our age, we've been through quite a few managers, but either one you've played for or one that you think is your favourite.
It's got to be the gaffer, really. Isn't it? It's got to be the gaffer, George. It's 100%. I mean, I thought through it, and I'd pick out Pat Rice, I'd pick out George Armstrong, Terry Burton, Tommy Coleman, and they all happen to be at Arsenal. So it's just like an Arsenal fest, isn't it? It's like, and I could have picked any one of them managers, but I'll go for George just because I think he was special in the fact that how he delivered his managerialship, if you like. He did treat everybody slightly different, but it was fair. He was honest.
Yeah.
And he gave me a chance. He gave me a chance along with the coaching staff. So I've got a lot to thank him for.
So everyone in the chat room, you can answer along with David, and I'll put the your answers underneath. I mean, those that have been with me for the last 6 episodes, you're going to say the same thing because these are the same questions. But feel free to tell us who your favourite, whatever is the question is. Right. Favourite player to ever play for Arsenal and favourite non-Arsenal player to ever play in the league.
Yeah, again, difficult, isn't it? Because do I pick someone I played with that I really liked, that I thought was just a great person to be around? So that was one of my thought processes. Or do I go straight for the best player, my favourite player because he's the best? But it would mean someone getting a mention twice, because later on, if we do a team, one from each position, he's probably going to fill one of them positions.
These are your choices, Dave.
I've picked two. I've been greedy. It's Christmas. I thought I'll have two. So it would be Dave Rocastle for me, because when you worked around Rocky and trained with him and knew his family and all of that, he was just the best, most consistent, happiest person around. He never let anything that happened on the pitch get between any of his feelings for other things, and he had strong feelings about lots of different things. And it's obviously, if he'd have lived, he would have gone on to do a lot more. But just as a bloke that turns up at training, it was a fantastic footballer, fantastic inspiration for those apprentices below him at the club. I think he treated us all brilliantly. It would be Rocky, and then my second player would be Dennis, just because I could watch him all day long. I could watch the videos that go around on all of the socials all day long of the little things, the really small things Dennis done in games, and you just think that's such good quality. And again, he was a lovely bloke, an outstanding person, outstanding trainer, outstanding professional. So from that point of view, he sneaks in as my favourite as well.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of people have picked Bergkamp, but a lot of people have picked Henry. It's been a bit of a, tussle between the both of them. But Bergkamp was just outstanding, and exactly what Carl Stark. Bergkamp, absolutely. We had the pleasure of watching him grace that pitch. Honestly, beautiful. What's your non-Arsenal player then?
So my non-Arsenal player has got to be Brian Robson. I loved everything about Brian. Yeah. He was when he hit the scene. I think he hit the scene early-ish 80s, if I'm right. Probably about the time I signed for Arsenal. So it's then you start thinking, who do I want to play like? I want to just like pound through the midfield, and he was obviously on Match of the Day a lot, because that was the one show everyone watched. It wasn't loads of different football, because they was sort of. He was in the best teams, and saw a lot of him. Yeah, and he was just like Captain Marvel for England, weren't he? And he was, everything I wanted to be in a midfielder. So it was nice when we won the league as well. I think one of our last games was against Man U, 3-1 as well at the end of that season. I played against him. I think that was the last time he played at that level, which was an honour. But Brian Robson probably is my favourite non-Arsenal player.
Yeah, mine's Steven Gerrard, weirdly. Not a popular opinion, but just that sort of ilk of character, a little bit like Robson, just a
but obviously
midfielder.
a more modern player, because you're a lot younger than me, so You would have gone for one
I'm
of these
really not.
youngsters, weren't you?
I'm really not a lot younger than you. Worst player to ever play for us.
No,
This is
see, I
going to be
can't
hard
answer
for
that
you.
one. That's
You
unfair.
can't.
Yeah, it's
And
unfair.
that's exactly what Stuart said, because it is, and you couldn't. And you know exactly what's going to happen if you say it as well.
I've got players that I felt really didn't fulfil their potential,
Okay.
but it wouldn't make them the worst. And I thought when Gervinho came, I thought he was going to set it on fire. And he had tiny little bits, and I thought he's got a real good opportunity, and then he just fizzled out, and that was a disappointment more than I'd say our worst player. But there's been a few. There's been a few players that didn't fully fulfil their initial potential. I think even more recently, if you're talking about players like that, I'd say Kolasinac, someone like that. I thought he came, he had a really good opportunity before Tierney was here and that to really sort of hit the ground running. And for the first couple of games he didn't he? He played really good, and everyone was like, "Oh, we've got this new left back who goes up and down the wing," and then all of a sudden he just settled for kind of under 23s and second best a little bit. So again, a little bit of a disappointment. But the team at the moment, I couldn't be happier with them.
So I've just got a quick question from Carl. Was Robson the best player you played against?
At the time, I don't think he probably was, because it was towards the end of his career, and he probably didn't have as much oomph as he had right in the beginning. Although, I can't question his commitment even in them games when he was getting older. And I know he was carrying injuries, and he'd had that bad shoulder injury that he'd suffered from for a long time. But best player I played against, when I made my debut in the league, it was against Liverpool, and I played against Jan Mulby. Now, he was one of the most difficult players to play against. Such a good touch and vision, which made my game difficult, because I like to get close and nick the ball off people or make challenges, and you couldn't with Jan. You got 2 yards away and he's already released the ball. So I'd say probably Jan was one of the most difficult players I played against.
Yeah, he was a big
I
guy
played against some good
wasn't he?
ones. Yeah, I played against some big ones. Roy Keane, another fantastic player. Carlton Palmer, he was a decent midfielder. David Batty, back in the day, was a tough midfielder to play against. Even Gordon Strachan, he was at the end of his era as well, if you like, along with Robson, but another difficult player. Paul Cook at Leeds was fantastic. So quite a few. Some good old names from the past.
Absolutely. Favourite celebrity Arsenal fan?
Yeah, I don't know many, because if they're, well, I don't. Maybe I know a few, but I don't class them as celebrities. But I've got someone that follows me on Twitter. He's always got something funny to say. He DMs me now and again, a funny comment, and that's Matt Lucas. So I'll have to give him a mention. Yeah, and I love him. Shame he's not on Bake Off anymore. But yeah, he's probably one of my favourites, because he is just funny, and he comes back with some killer one-liners to people who put out stupid tweets.
I know.
And it's just like,
it's the best way to deal with tweets and social media. The one-liner, just to show them up how stupid they are. He did one today. He just makes me laugh so much. But you've got to get him. That's the thing. He has got a very dry sense of humour, and he's Arsenal through and through, which is lovely as well.
Yeah, it is. And when he first started, I think he was down at the Comedy Club in Greenwich with Reeves and Mortimer. I think that's where they found him.
Oh, right.
He was doing a gig there as the baby. His famous his baby scene. And we used to go to that comedy club. So I'd seen them when I was in my early 20s as like 25, 26-year-olds or whatever. But didn't realise that he was even a fan back then. But now, I've had a little bit of banter with him. He's a very, very nice chap.
Yeah, I like him as well. My one was, I had two. It was Idris Elba and Mo Gilligan. Mo Gilligan is just so funny. And I love Idris Elba for many other reasons as well. But
I was going to say, Idris Elba, he's unattractive. He's skin, for all those, all
forget
those
the
ethical
skin
reasons.
Right. So what do you love and not love about the Arsenal?
What do I love and not love? Again, these are really difficult questions because it depends what I'm looking at. Am I looking at the playing side of things, or do I relate it to the club?
Just the club.
So, so what I used to love about the club is what I said to you about how we all was so together and everybody knew each other, and you could cross from one department to the other, and it was a close knit thing. And players were accessible with the staff; they mingled in. So that's what I love or loved about the club. And that's what I don't love about it now. I just think sometimes the players, I understand why there's that distance now, that security, and obviously all of the COVID stuff now, there's still measures at clubs where you have to wear masks around players and blah, 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 which is fine. I'll get that because it's a high-end company now. You know, it's not just your local football club anymore. It's a big deal, big business. So I get all that. But I'd like just a little bit more, maybe genuine interaction sometimes between the players, rather than all the gimmicky stuff.
So you're missing
I think
sort of the communication with the players and the feeling.
I think the fans do. I think the fans do. Not me personally. I think from a fan's point of view, I think sometimes it's because of how the game's gone. The player just can't walk out of the club anymore and walk down the street and pop into the Gunners pub and have a pint. You can't do that anymore. And I think it's not something to hate. It's something I miss about what players can't do now. And I'm sure one or two of them would still love to do that. And that's why we was lucky when we played. We could do that. We could have a much closer relationship with the fans.
Was you part of the Tuesday Club?
Yeah, I was normally the cab driver of the Tuesday Club.
Oh, right.
I was part of it, but I was always I was lightweight. I was done by 1-2 o'clock. I weren't the Wednesday morning club. No, but yeah, that was the era of the boys, and yeah, I think while I think players do go out and socialise and have a good time, I just think it's more difficult for them now.
Yeah.
The fan base has changed a little bit.
You didn't have camera phones, and we didn't have phones in the 80s. You'd be lucky if you had a portable camera that you had to go and get produced at Boots and get the pictures off. You just wouldn't have that. And paparazzi weren't really interested in you lot in the early 80s. Late 80s it all started, I suppose, but it's just, this is exactly what Carl was saying. The video of Zinni and his wife in their car outside the Tollington was great. They seemed fairly approachable. She loved it. Did you see that? That was absolutely brilliant.
No, I didn't see that.
So they stopped at the Tolly. She got out of the car roof and she was filming everyone singing her husband's name. And
oh, that's nice, yeah.
And I think maybe because they're foreign, they're not so scared. But you don't see that every player's rushing off, and it's very different now. And, we never had social media. We didn't have the internet. So, if you signed a top for a young kid, that kid had that top. Now, if you signed a top for a kid, they're going to sell it on eBay, or, they're going to try and get it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I've seen the players stop at the Tolly, and that's fine. And I'm not saying I was categorically not saying that it's the players not being approachable.
No.
What I'm saying is they couldn't be in that situation because it might be fine when a few fans go up to Zinni and his wife in the car. But what happens if they get out of the car and all of a sudden there's 50 people all round pushing, shoving, and I'm not saying that the youngsters now are this, that and the other or anything like that, but those situations can get intimidating and change very quickly for the players, so they don't want to put themselves in them.
And where it wouldn't have in the 80s, it just wouldn't have. You'd have had a few, because no one would have known that. You wouldn't have known.
But it didn't happen anyway. I think that there was a little bit more of a respect for distance then, and you'd still have loads of people coming up to you and to the other lads and that, but they would have a little bit more decorum back in the day. But it's a bit of a free fall now.
Can you sign my top? Can you sign my autograph book? It's very different now. We all just want pictures and selfies and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's move on. Best game ever, best game this season, worst game ever, and worst game this season. So we're jumping up to now. Okay.
Okay, best game ever. Best game ever? That's tough. That went on my list. I didn't think about that one.
All right, we'll do what was on your list.
So I had best and worst game on my list.
Yeah, you can do that.
All right, we'll do that. We'll go for best and worst game this season then, up to date. So it's got to be beating Spurs 3-1. It's got to be, because the goals were fantastic. I mean, Thomas Partey's goal was a cracker, wasn't it? Just slotted into the top corner, nice and comfy. Jesus got one of his last goals that we've seen him get for a while, which is a shame. And then top it all off, my man Granit scored. So that, you know, for him, I think to score, I know it wasn't the winning goal, but to score the last goal in the London derby, be so dominant in that game like he was as well. That goes down as my best game this season. But there's been some really good performances, you know, really solid performances. And when we haven't played well, we've still got the result. So you've got to say that. Worst game, I covered the Brighton game in the EFL.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, 3-1. And for me, it was the one game I've watched when the team really didn't look like the Premier League side. And you saw maybe how much depth we don't have in the squad. Because Brighton put out a decent side. We twinked it a little bit, which is good for those competitions. It's good for players to be able to get their games in and stuff, the fringe players. I'm just seeing Kyle say the worst game was Man United away. Yeah, that's a bad game. We could have and should have won that. I agree. But I just mean from performance level and disappointment of not having that competition as well. Because just for a few rounds, it's quite a nice competition to be in. All of a sudden, you can be in the final in, is it March or March, April?
It gives the fringe players a chance to play, and now they haven't got that chance to play.
Yeah,
so maybe they'll be chucked in the Europa. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's the most bizarre period of time at football at the moment. It was like COVID was bad enough. I don't know where we are. You know, we're still saying, "Oh, we're top." I feel like I've not been to football for about 3 years. But anyway.
Well, you're gonna feel different soon. We've got 12 games, I think, before the end of February. So
yeah, I'll be saying to you, it's too much football. It's too much football.
I can't get. Yeah. Well, what with the trains and stuff and trying to get places, that's gonna cause problems as well. So we'll see how it pans out. I don't know if people will be able to get to football matches.
Who knows? Right. So, unsung hero. You can do one that you've played with if you want, or one that you just think over the years has been an unsung hero by the Arsenal.
Well, again, it's a difficult question because I think when I look back through the years, I think Arsenal have never not thanked someone for playing for their club, if that makes sense. You don't ever feel like, oh, I didn't really play for Arsenal. People who play for Arsenal just 2 or 3 games, you have a look on their bio or whatever, the first club they put in is Arsenal. Even if they played 250 games for someone else after that, you know, maybe went down the division, they'll always put Arsenal and include it on there. So I think everybody appreciates the fact that they played for Arsenal, and they've all been treated by the club well. But modern day unsung hero, I think in the team we've got now, Ben White, without a doubt, I think he's been fantastic. Keeps himself to himself. He's really quiet and unassuming off the pitch. Really does the business on the pitch. Not complained about having to play right back since Gabriel came back and he lost the position in the back 4 there. So I think all the rest of the players in the team get a fair lot of kudos for what they've done. I don't think any of them could claim to be unsung. And a previous player for me would have been George Armstrong, because when he came to the club and he was my coach, I didn't realise how much he'd actually done for Arsenal. You know, and the fact that he never got an England run or anything like that, and the kind of player he was, and one of the best of his era, I think I'd have him down as an unsung hero, and also with what he did at the club with the coaching, and
yeah. He was a little bit before my time, but he's my dad's favourite player, Geordie Armstrong. And it's so weird that I'm actually friendly with his daughter on Twitter, and we've done a pod together as well. It just, again, the plus side of social media, again, like obviously I wouldn't have met you, I wouldn't have met Kev again, I wouldn't have met everybody again, is that you come together, and the fact that my dad gets to talk to Jill, his daughter, is just, it's great. It really is. Okay, what was your favourite chant?
1-0 to the Arsenal.
That's your favourite one, yeah?
Well, it was the one I heard the most. I tried not to hear any of the others, some of the bad chants back in the day. But I think 1-0 to the Arsenal, because that brings back such glorious memories of the season when we just, we was almost invincible. We had points deduction. Everything kind of went wrong. We had lots of bad press throughout it, and all you ever heard was 1-0 to the Arsenal. And of course, Stevie Bold, got no hair, but we don't care. Stevie Bold. I mean, another classic. But I like the Tottenham shit ones, and She Wore and all of that. There's some good little ones about. Santi Cazorla, I think that's a classic, nice and simple.
Yeah. Mine was Vieira. I love that tune. I love it.
Yeah, and he deserved to be sung about. Another fantastic player. Didn't quite make it into my team, unfortunately.
Well, we'll see in a second. But John Rose said the other unsung hero is Pat Rice.
Yeah, I mean, you could go down that route. I think he was on the other side of the pitch to Geordie, weren't he? When Geordie played, I think Geordie played on the right wing. But I mean, Ricey, you say unsung, but within the club, he was very well respected. So he didn't go without when it comes to respect from within. Everybody knew what Pat had done. But I think with George came after Pat had already been a youth team manager for a few years and re-established himself at the club as a coach. Geordie came in from the outside and from elsewhere. So it was a little bit more difficult for him, but he was fantastic with that reserve team, keeping us all together and all motivated. Because you only had you didn't have big squads, so if you weren't in the 16 that played on a Saturday, you had to go somewhere on a Tuesday night, wet and cold, maybe like Harrow and Wealdstone or somewhere like that, and play a game, and it's really crappy. And Geordie was just a bundle of energy and life. Just wanted you to do the best for yourself. So I think he really didn't get the credit that maybe he deserves.
Memories. Andy Love said, funniest play that David played with. This is going off a little bit track, but we can ask this question and then we're going on to your 4.
Yeah, that's fine. Funniest player. I mean, Wrighty was obviously stupidly funny, but he was just, I don't know whether he was just stupid and not funny. So, but the funniest player I played with was a lad at Portsmouth called Robbie Pethick. And he was just, again, really stupid, but he looks a bit like Plug from the comic books, and he was just like Plug. He wasn't stupid, but he pretended to be, and he did ridiculous things. I don't know. I don't know whether to tell his stories. He did a funny thing. We was in. This is a funny one. It's clean as well. We was in McDonald's, and we was in the queue, and there was a kid behind us screaming at his mum to get him an apple pie, and he was absolutely screaming. And the queue was quite long, and Pef's in the queue. He's just being really silent and really sort of patient, but this kid is screaming right in Pef's ear. So Pef goes up when we get to the counter, and they're behind us, and all this kid screaming is, "I want an apple pie, an apple pie, an apple pie." Robbie bought all the apple pies they had and took them out of there, right, just so that he couldn't have an apple pie.
Oh my God.
He went to the counter and he went, "I'll have a McDonald's, like whatever, I'll have a Big Mac meal, and I'll have every single apple pie that you've got, please." like that. And he walked out of there happy with himself, threw them all away, but happy that that little kid who was being a brat didn't get an apple pie. It was just a funny, yeah. He was a funny boy.
Now,
He
if
was a
that would have
very
been
funny
now,
boy.
that would have been all over social media. How dare he
Yeah,
waste food? You know, there would have been
yeah,
a whole big
yeah,
thing, wouldn't
yeah,
it? It's such a
yeah. But
different time then.
but he made the other 10 of us who was in there with him just absolutely wet ourselves by what he did. Yeah, so he'd go down
Brilliant.
as my funniest, Robbie.
Oh, okay, right. Your next bit is your top goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, and forward for the Arsenal.
Yeah, again, I mean, so probably, I don't know, like you, how old was you when you started supporting the side? Did you say?
Probably about 73, 19, not when I was 73, 19.
I was going to
Well,
say,
I was
bloody
born in
hell, you're looking
69. So
well.
my dad said I could recite the double team when I was 3 years old. I still think that's an urban myth, but he tells everybody that. So
Okay.
I was from 69, really. But I had no choice, David. Had no choice.
Yeah, so players pre when I kind of signed at 14, I didn't really have great knowledge of. I mean, the only one I see one or two in a box at Arsenal, and I
Yeah.
think Willie Young is fantastic. He's such a lovely man. So he'd have been the only player I knew from back in the day. So these are all quite modern players I played with. In goal, I'd have David Seaman. Definitely. I mean, I never got to play with the likes of Jennings and stuff. So, and we had John Lukic, good goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But for me, Dave Seaman all day long, formidable in goal, and just as a bloke, yeah, he is a big softy, but he's a big tough softy as well. That's
Yeah.
what people don't know. He was a tough lad, and he was a strong character in that team. Best defender. It's got to be my skipper. It's got to be Tony Adams.
So far, you and I have done the same too, but go on.
Yeah, and the reason behind Tony is because not only was he a good player before Arsenal came, and was he
Yeah.
great for Arsenal in those early 90s, but he adapted and changed his game, and then he transitioned into the Wenger era perfectly. So did all the back four. That
Yeah.
Nigel, Tony, Baldy, and Lee all made that transition really well. The two different styles, so they all deserve credit, and any one of them, to be fair, could have been my best defender. So yeah, but I've put Tony in. Midfielder, I've mentioned him already today, Dennis. I'm going to class him as a midfielder and not a forward,
Okay.
because I think he was more as creative, if not more creative, than any of the midfielders anyway, even when he was playing forward. So yeah, so he goes in as my midfielder. Otherwise, I would have had Patrick in there.
Yeah, well,
I think.
I had Patrick.
Yeah, I would have had Patrick as the midfielder, and then forward, I'm going to disappoint so many people here who are my mates, because I'm not actually mates with this bloke. I don't know him. I've met him a couple of times, but sorry, Kev, sorry, Righty, sorry, Smudger. I've got to go for Thierry.
Right.
I think it's got to be just because of on his day, right, he could have been as good as Thierry every week, but there's a certain thing about Thierry Henry. He was a bit more of a footballer as well. Right, he was just a mad finisher, and an absolute character as well. But Thierry gets in there, so I apologise to all those players I played with.
So I had Seaman, Adams, Vieira, and Righty.
Yeah, close.
Didn't even have Kev, but we won't tell him. We just won't
No,
tell him.
no, we won't tell him.
Okay, so I've got a little quick fire. Oh yeah, so I've got a little quick fire round for you that you don't know these.
Oh no, okay.
Then nothing major. Bergkamp or Omri?
Bergkamp.
Perez or Overmars?
Perez.
Saka or Martinelli?
Saka.
Highbury or the Emirates?
Highbury.
I don't think I need to ask that one. Right. England to win the World Cup or Arsenal to win the Champions League?
Arsenal to win the Champions League.
Graham or Wenger?
Graham.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. See, they weren't hard, were they?
No. I've pretty much said all that in our chat.
You have, I know.
If you broke them down, if you broke them down, it's probably they've all been mentioned in that way in the chat.
So all the questions are over now, David. And what we're going to do, we're just going to talk about, well, first of all, we haven't really mentioned the World Cup, which is fine. And this isn't about the World Cup, but we'd be very remiss if we didn't mention the fact that France are playing Argentina on Sunday. And what was your thoughts on the World Cup? Have you got any thoughts about it?
I thought it was a bit overwhelmed by the wrong press in the beginning. I think everyone got off on the wrong foot, and it kind of. Unfortunately, I wasn't as interested in it. Maybe because we didn't see the big opening on BBC, did they? They didn't show it, and little bits and pieces. So there wasn't that big furore around it. And with all the other stuff going on, when you just want to listen to I don't mind who's commentating on it. I don't mind who's doing the punditry. I just want to watch the football. But there's been a lot of press about obviously the LGBTQ stuff and with female presenters and male presenters, and I just wanted to just watch football. And then we got about 4 games in. Everybody forgot about all that. The football shone, started to get better. There was an interest around England. England started playing a little bit better and giving you a bit more belief. And I think it's been brilliant. Some of the teams, the smaller teams or say smaller teams that have done really well, I think you've got to commend them. They always make the World Cup, those teams. They make the sort of the vibe that they almost take it back to a working class sport, if you know what I mean. It's almost they play on streets where they live, they play on gravel pitches. Look how good they are and how much they love it. So that feeling's come back for it. And I think I think the 2 teams that are in the final is a fair reflection of the way teams have played.
No, I agree. I'm not entirely happy that, first of all, it was done in November and it stops our season. I'm not entirely happy that not everyone was welcome. That is a big issue for me. Also, the human rights record, Dave, not at all. But I understand the bit where if you're going to have to play the World Cup, we're going to watch the football. Let's just get on with it. Let's get it through it. England, I thought, did fairly well. I thought the referee for the England-France game was one of the worst refs I've ever seen. I couldn't believe, I think most people couldn't believe what they were watching. It was such a shame that, as much as we all, we're not a fan of Harry Kane for obvious reasons. When he plays for England, we are a fan of Harry Kane. And it is a shame that he missed that penalty. And I just felt, I know what you mean, like, for me, Morocco were what you were talking about, playing on the streets and, everything. I love the fact that the Japanese cleared up after themselves in the stadium and in the changing rooms. I mean, what respect is that? Oh, Lynn Simpson just said the same as me. For me, Morocco, the surprise team of the tournament. And it doesn't feel, we're not used to it. We're not used to a Winter World Cup. We're used to June, being outside, being in the bars, having a drink in the, the pub garden, and then going to watch the football and stuff, and the season over and just watching your players. This just feels all wrong because we're not used to it. That's how I see it anyway. I really didn't want the season interrupted, and especially how we were playing, which we're going to get onto in a second. But just out of a little bit of fun, who do you think is going to win, France or Argentina?
I think France will win because I think they've got more high-level players than Argentina. For me, Argentina, about their 2 forwards, is about Messi and Alvarez. I think those 2 players can change a game, and the rest of their team are configured to, for that reason, get the ball to those 2 and they'll win it. Whereas I think you get more of a threat from different areas with France. I think they're stronger at the back. Argentina not really been, well, they've been tested a couple of times. They've had I think Holland came back, didn't they, from 2-0 down against them. So they're a bit weak, a bit more fragile at the back. So I think it's got France written over it all day long.
I think it's going to be Argentina, and I'll tell you why. Because I have France in the sweepstake at work, and when the sweepstakes were given out, and obviously we weren't able to choose, I was desperate for Brazil, and I made this whole big thing that I wanted Brazil. I want Brazil. I got Martinelli and Jesus playing for him. I didn't think Saliba would play, and obviously, But at the beginning, someone went, "Oh, France are going to win this competition," and I went, "No, probably not, because I've got them in the sweepstake, and I don't win bets." So for me, Messi
might be a first.
Might be a first. I might actually win the sweepstake at work and come away with a nice little gift. But whatever happens on Sunday night, you can sort of guarantee it's going to be one hell of a game, can't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think, like I said, I think it's like any of these competitions. Most of them, in the final bit, we even you look at Strictly, which had a great friend of mine, Tony Adams, on it. That's why I went for 1-0 for the Arsenal. That Go West number, I think he did in the first show was fantastic. So yeah, I dedicate that to him, my favourite chant. Yeah, you look at any competition, when it gets to the end, you will always 9 times out of 10 get the best 2 teams. So while it's been great to have the Moroccos, and I think Saudi Arabia played well, didn't they?
Yeah.
There was some really good footballing sides you wouldn't have expected to see. Croatia again did really well to get all the way to the semis. I think the cream comes to the top, and I believe that I think French have just got a little bit more creme de la creme than Argentina.
Messi, I think Messi.
Yeah, but Messi's unbelievable. He walks around that pitch like he's not involved. And then all of a sudden, he just sparks into life, and it's lovely to watch. But it has been really enjoyable. I think since the last 2 group games, probably first 2 group games for everybody was a bit flat because it was a bit overtaken by everything else.
It was a little bit expected that we would not come through unscathed. All our players have come back, and then Jesus, he could have just cried. He just could have cried. It's awful. When I heard the news and someone went 3 weeks, I was like, all right, I can put up with that. And then it went to 3 months, and we don't know. No one knows anything. But he's so vital to our team. Coming on to that now, I was going to talk to you about Arteta, and we've got a question. So let Andy ask it. What does David think about the current Arsenal team and manager? Does David think we're on to start of something special? Which is something I was going to ask anyway.
I think Arteta has really grown into his role nicely. I think he's great with the media. He doesn't hang any of his players out.
No.
And when he does, it's almost like I don't think he's hanging them out. I think he's putting the onus back onto the player to make a decision. So he's a good manager from that respect. I think tactically he's now showing his true colours. I think he picks a consistent side. So when he was chopping and changing it before, and playing different players in different positions, I think it was because he genuinely didn't have the players that he wanted, and 2, he just he wasn't sure. He was a young manager at Arsenal, but I think he's really learning his trade. He's put together a good group of players. He's got a great balance within the team. What I like about the team is, even like we mentioned, Jesus, he's been in a little bit of a dry period. If someone else scores, if Ben White scores, if Rob Holding scores, it comes on and scores. When Reece Nelson scored those 2 goals, came on against Forest, not been involved in the club at all really this season. No one's seen him. Comes off the bench, gets 2 goals. Everybody is so happy for everybody else to get a piece of the pie, and to sort of be involved and get the credits. And that's the mentality he's got within the camp now. There's no superstars. There's no people that want to stand out in particular. They all just want to do their job. So he's got that going. That's very important. I think their recruitment is probably the most disappointing thing. But you've got to understand, I think Arsenal need to how can I say that they need to earn some credits first by doing really well this season, coming first or second in the league, and then players who they are coveting, who they do want, will maybe believe that Arsenal are going somewhere and they'll come to the club. So I think, while I say recruitment's not been brilliant, I think it's probably been difficult for them because they obviously want to get the right players now. I don't think Arteta will just buy anyone to fill holes. So all in all, I think he's done a really, really good job so far. And I think we could be I don't think we're on the edge of that little domination period when we had the Invincibles with Arsenal and Wenger. I don't think we've got a squad like that squad. No way. And when you mention like Perez and Overmars and Bergkamp and Henry, Vieira, Petit, all in the same side, you're talking about, ridiculously good players. Ridiculously good. I don't think we're at that level with this team. But we could be with 3 or 4 more additions, and if the team grows in their confidence even more as they are and their strength, then we could be on the start of something very, very good.
I think so. It's just an absolute joy to watch, considering what we have been watching. I've been a supporter of Arteta since day one, even through the bad times and things when it wasn't going well. I just thought I could just see his vision. I could see what he was trying to do. He had to just slowly get rid of, the I ams and the big personalities as such. He's brought in Zinchenko and Jesus, who are absolutely incredible. And it's so true, you have 1 minute you've got Ødegaard scoring and Martinelli's been a bit quiet. Then you've got Martinelli scoring when Saka's been a bit quiet. Then Ødegaard's a bit quiet and Saka goes and scores. And it is constant. And Xhaka. I mean, Dave, Xhaka.
I know, he's been fantastic. And like I said, the thing is, Amanda, right? You just mentioned, so when Martinelli scores, Ødegaard's happy. When Ødegaard scores, Martinelli's happy. But when them 2 players score, Sambi Lokonga, who ain't even played on the bench, he's just as happy as well. And he ain't even played. And that's what I love. I love the fact that everybody is so happy for each other. They all know they're playing a part, and Arsene Wenger was clever with this as well. He made players who weren't playing and who was on the bench happy. He kept players happy. So when they did come into the squad, they didn't lower the output or the quality. They was so happy to be there, and they was buzzing. They wanted to go in. They weren't feeling like they've been mistreated or not happy. When everybody's happy for everyone else. Yeah. That's when you get the right feeling, the feeling that you need to go out and achieve the big goals. But you do need the quality as well. And with the injury to Jesus, I think it's going to be a massive, massive blow. I can't see us replacing that player with anybody.
Well, Carl Stark says, does Dave think Eddie Nketiah can step up and fill the void with with Jesus out for up to 3 months, as you were just saying?
It's a difficult one. I mean, Eddie's he promises to give it all, and he's got the whole thing. And then sometimes I think, even if you asked him, he doesn't fulfil his potential or what he sets out to do in that team. He doesn't hold the ball up as well as Jesus at the moment, but he's working on it. But he's definitely a lot stronger than he was last season. Definitely a lot stronger physically. I think he can do it, but I don't think he can fully fill the void. It's going to be, if he goes in and plays, then the players in front of him are going to we're going to have to get another 10% out of them. Martinelli, Ødegaard, and Saka. I think they all need to bring a little bit more to the table and help Eddie in his quest to fill Jesus's boots. But they're big boots to fill at the moment, even though he's not been scoring. They're massive boots to fill.
It's funny, isn't it? This no scoring thing with Jesus. It doesn't bother me in the slightest because everybody else is scoring. And the fact that he brings so much to the team. He's so tenacious, Dave. And he's a winner as well. Remember, he's got that experience under Pep. And that was what we were always saying. And it'll come. I mean, obviously, he's going to be out for... Do you know how long? Have you heard how long he's going to be out for?
I just heard it was going to be around about 10 weeks. So yeah,
Right.
2.5 months. But you know, I don't know how the other injuries are at the club. So yeah, I think that's going to be Arsenal's downfall or problem this season is going to be the lack of high-end quality replacements for the best players in that team. I think we've got replacements in other areas who are good enough quality to do the jobs. But certainly at the business end, it is a little bit of a worry. But we'll see. We've got West Ham next, haven't we? So we've got to get back.
Can't wait.
Get straight back on it, and then Newcastle after that, who are flying, and then Man U and Tottenham after that. So I think by sort of, if you come back sort of end of January, by sort of, I think the 20th, is it on the 23rd, the last game, something like that, the Tottenham game or the Man U game after one of those.
22nd.
Come the end of January, 22nd, yeah. Come the end of January, we'll have a very good idea of where we're going to be at the end of the season.
Well, I think
if we can win those,
don't we? Play City mid-Feb on the 15th now. That's massive.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something, Dave. I'm not on the train yet of us winning the league. I can see us getting second or third, but I'm not on that train yet. Well, a few people are starting to think like that. Talk to me mid-Feb. If we're still top and we beat City, I might start to think, wow, I mean, we have a chance here. But
yeah. I think we definitely got a chance. I think but I don't think we should focus on that. I think Pep's very clever. It is really, it's not about just focusing on the next game.
Yeah.
It's what he's focusing on is maintaining the levels that they are putting out on the pitch, and that's all he wants to focus on. He's not going down the route of we're looking at it game by game. If you listen to his interviews, he keeps going on about maintaining the players' mentality and their level of performance, because he doesn't want to think, league positions. But if he had a league position in his head and it was between 1 and 4, and that's where we finished at the end of the season, I think that's an excellent achievement, and it will benefit the club moving forward, because with Champions League football, that the European players will, and the top players who are looking for a move, they will want to be back involved. And with a young manager who's in a growing and evolving team I've got Champions League football, I think that's a big draw. So then we can address the squad issues.
I'm just going to go back to Eddie a second. John Flint, KCG, welcome to the show. Would a run of games make him feel part of the team rather than having to prove himself? I'm assuming he's talking about Eddie. I think he is.
Yeah. I think you're right, John. I think it's difficult when you're only coming in to fill someone's boots, or stand in for them while they have a rest because they played so many games. It is difficult to feel part of the team, and so you do always feel like you're proving yourself when you come on a sub, especially as a forward. You feel like you're proving yourself because you really. I always said, when Bukayo first got in the side, he needs to score a couple of goals. As soon as he scores a couple of goals, then people will believe in him. But he's got to come on and score goals, where the player who's playing in his position prior to him can just have a 6 out of 10 steady game every week, and it's no pressure for them anymore. So for Eddie, it is hard for him, because he is trying to prove himself. But we all know that as soon as Jesus is fit, he'll be back in the side. So Eddie's made a long-term commitment to the club, though. Just signed a new contract at the start of the season. And he could have gone elsewhere for a lot of money. He could have earned himself a lot of money going elsewhere, a lot more than he's getting at Arsenal, and he didn't do that. So that tells me that it shows me that he's in it for the long-term gain and to become a better player. And there ain't no better player to learn off for him than Jesus. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Eddie that he does well for himself.
So both Carl and Lynn, and I'll put Lynn's comment up, Dave, because Nketiah is much more of a poacher, do you think that he would find the spaces better and play Martinelli down the middle?
I'm not 100% on Martinelli down the middle. he's good when he comes in from the wings and exposes that central area, because you tend to find that central defenders are slower than fullbacks. So he gets more joy at central defenders, and when he's running at them, he does make them look quite average sometimes.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's got the he's not got a holding up part to his game. When Martinelli receives the ball, he likes to receive it on the run and turn as he's sort of receiving it, a bit like Aubameyang did. Oba never really held the ball up and was a little pivot point. But I think Eddie can be that better than Martinelli can. So I think Eddie gives us more down the middle than Martinelli can. And on the flip side of that, I think Martinelli down the wing, he's just so dangerous. He the fear that some of these fullbacks must have playing against him. Even when he came on for France in the World Cup, I'm thinking, I'm feeling sorry for that fullback. The last thing you want is Martinelli coming on with 20 minutes to go, fresh legs, and you've been, you're breathing out your backside, and then you've got him like running around and harassing you. But yeah, that's my take on it.
And he's just getting better and better, isn't he, Martinelli? Just getting better and better.
Yeah, I'd like Saka to have a little bit more of Martinelli's attitude and be a bit more selfish sometimes as well. Because I think Martinelli does try and get the ball, take people on. Sometimes you'll see him with 3 or 4 around him, and he still don't really want to pass the ball. He still wants to keep it for himself and beat him. I'd like to see maybe Saka just be a bit more direct as well. I think he plays within himself, so I think we've got a lot more to come from Bukayo, especially when he comes back after this World Cup.
Well, Andy's asking, how about Saka down the middle?
Yeah, again, I think he's found his position. He plays on the right. He cuts in. He's got that lovely cutting side on his left. Yeah. It's a good little trick he's got, and he gets past people. He's strong on his right shoulder, so he keeps them off well. I'm not so sure he plays off of his left on the left-hand side that well. So
I wouldn't want to see him down the middle. I like Saka where Saka plays.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andy. I don't know. Carl says, who does Dave prefer at left back, Zinni or Tierney?
I think Zinchenko. I think Kieran is a really good player. He's really strong. I think there's a little part of his game just his end product is a bit predictable, Kieran Tierney. It's always a cross 9 times out of 10 low in the box towards the near post, or he gets into that final third and he just cuts back and comes back into the midfield. I think Zinni, he gives a little bit more space to Xhaka to go and roam. And I just think he's just got a bit more team awareness, maybe, rather than just being a left back. But I would say that I think Tierney is probably a better defender than Zinchenko.
Yeah, that's what we've all said.
So I think, although he's a better defender, you're asking me who I'd prefer at left back, and I'd prefer a defender that can attack a bit better. So for me, it's not Tierney.
Yeah. Okay. Going to do a couple more questions, Dave, then I'm going to get you out of here, but it's been brilliant. We've done over an hour already. It just goes like that.
I know, I was just looking. I've got to have my tea yet.
Right, 2 more questions and I'll get you out. I will. I don't normally do this, but come on. Who would Dave like to see us sign in January? Players or positions?
I'm going to go for positions because I can't pronounce some of the names. Mudryk, is it Mudryk?
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about him.
Yeah, him. I've watched him a little bit. He's from Shakhtar, isn't he? I think Shakhtar Donetsk. I think he's there. He's a decent player. But I think we'll go. I think positions wise, I think definitely a high end forward. I don't mind someone who's maybe coming to the end of their Premiership careers. So a nice strong forward, someone who can hold that position down when maybe Eddie, even if Eddie got injured, we'd be really struggling. I think probably they need to sign someone with a mind to maybe Xhaka not being as good next season as he has been this. I think this will be his best season. And then we need to start looking for replacements for central midfield. I think Partey will continue in there, but I think Granit will probably maybe move on, try and get a couple of years in somewhere else before he hangs his boots up and comes back as a coach at Arsenal, because I'm sure that's what he'll do. I just think he will. I think he's really bought into the Arteta thing. I think he likes the way it's run and that now. So I think he'll be a part of Arsenal in the future. But yeah, maybe another central defender. Definitely, if we could have a high-end fullback to play right back. I'm not saying Ben White ain't been brilliant, but I think if you had a real flying sort of fullback, someone who was up and down, that was their day in day out job, then I think we'd have excellent cover at centre back then with Ben, because I'm not so sure about Rob all the time. I think Rob's good, but I think there's still probably a little bit lacking to be a league winning player. So not many, just a few.
Oh, Dave, this has been so brilliant. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been like a little trip down memory lane of Arsenal for me, and I ain't done that for a while. So yeah, it's made me think as well about a few of the old players and a few of the old boys and that.
Yeah.
So it was nice going down the list.
I love talking about, God, years of the 80s at Highbury and the 90s, and then Wenger coming in, and the people I've been asking this week, I've had young ones on, I've had older ones on. With you're on the 6th episode, and it's so interesting what people say, and obviously it just goes by age, because your 4 players were roughly my 4 players, because we're roughly the same age. But I had Tom Canton from the Gooner Talk, and his players were like Santi Cazorla. I'm like, yeah, but what about Vieira? What about Tony Adams? And I understand it's just not his era so much. Obviously knows about them. But it's just, and now we're doing so well, Dave. It's just a pleasure, and going to the Emirates and the atmosphere, and because the atmosphere did actually start halfway towards the end of last season, but it was more the away fans as well. It was just incredible. Yeah. And I think, as a player, that to get booed off not only demoralises you when you've had a bad game and you've lost, it doesn't encourage you. And I've never seen anything like this season, where we could let a goal in and yet we're all standing up, clapping the player back to the penalty spot and get on with it. And we support you. And even Arteta said he's never seen anything like this. And this is where I've always been saying on social media, yes, you can have a moan when you walk out the grounds. Of course, that's what we all do. It's what we pay our money. We can do that. But to actually go on social media or write blogs or go on podcasts and absolutely slate people does not do well for their confidence. And for their confidence, they need support. And now we're getting support. Look where we are. Look what's happening.
And I think a lot of players would say, no, they don't. That don't bother me. I don't hear the crowd. I don't do this. And that sometimes they don't. But the crowd have been a difference. So you can see in reality, it does have a really positive effect on the players, even if they don't admit it themselves. I'm talking about the people, the fans, if they don't admit it themselves, because I know fans that say, I sing every week and it don't make no difference. The players still can be shit and that, this, that, and the other. And I said, but that's fine. But the players are not always. You can't play brilliant every game, right? You can't play brilliant every game. But if you've got the support of your fans, when you go out for the next game, there's a much greater chance of you playing well if they were singing the last time you saw them. Right, and so, like you said, if you leave a game and it's booing, then when the players walk out the next time, they don't know what to expect. But we just haven't had that. The Emirates it's been a fantastic place. There's been the little, I've heard the same old. One player 1 minute can be brilliant, next minute he can be rubbish, and then he scores, and all of a sudden he's brilliant again.
But the thing is that's going to happen. But it's like life, Dave. If I made a mistake at work and my boss went at me and didn't give me constructive criticism or help me through it, the next time I make a mistake, I'm going to be petrified. But when you get good support, you're like, I can do this. And if your manager goes, I could go on, you can do it. You've got it. You feel confident to go, do you know what? I made a mistake, but I'm not going to do it again. And otherwise, you're treading on eggshells. And I think good management, and where I'm working now, I have great managers that just big me up and talk to me all the time and build that confidence, Well, that's what's happening with our team. We've got great managers. We've got great team. And what's happening is fans, the club, Arteta, the management, the tea lady, the sandwich makers, everybody. Yeah, we're one. We are one, and that is making us stronger. And that, I feel, is one of the main reasons we're top of the league, is because we've become one. The toxicity's gone. The cronky out part has gone because we're all supporting Arteta. I'm loving the North London Forever anthem. We've always desperately wanted one. The crowd, you can't get a ticket for love nor money anymore, David. I can't tell you the amount of people have asked me for tickets that I've never been asked.
Difficult, yeah.
Years. I've never been asked for tickets like this. Desperate. Any game they'll take. And I think it does. And I think, it's just, we just need to keep building on it. We lose a game, we just got to come back again. But you're right. And you know what? I've loved having you on. And whatever you say, you're coming back. I'm going to make you come back on the show.
Yeah, I'll come back. I'm
Fabulous.
back. I'm back.
You can come back when all the boys are on as well. They'd love to speak to you because we do like post-game shows and things like that. And they're a good bunch of boys as well. And they'd love to talk to you. They just couldn't make tonight.
That's cool. Well, we'll see. We'll do something after the Man City game in Feb. And we'll see where we are.
Yeah, amazing.
Then we'll see what the conversation's like then. Yeah, because we could be 6 points in front, or we could be 6 points behind by then. So it'd be
and we'll be going. Do you remember back in December when we said?
Why do people, when they say "do you remember," always doing it in a really old lady's voice? Like, do you remember?
Do you remember? Oh, and everyone, look at this comment. Great show, great memories. Always thought David was a great player for Arsenal and part of a special period for our beloved club with George Graham as manager.
That's very nice. Thank you, Andy. We love
Carl
you.
Said,
Andy,
awesome guest. Thanks, David. See, look, I think a lot of people. Jim said, good show. Thank you, all of you. You've been brilliant tonight, asking the questions that are really interesting, and also for the younger people that don't know your era that you played in, Dave. And what it was like at Highbury and stuff like that. And I've always in this show liked to talk about Highbury and the 80s, and I've not mentioned that night though. I haven't actually mentioned that night for months. I'm not mentioning that night ever again.
I don't know what night you're talking about.
No, I know you don't. I'm not mentioning it. I can't say ever again because that's not true. Everybody in the chat room, thank you so much. Dave, you've been brilliant. Episode 6, I've loved all the episodes, but I've loved this because it's just great listening to all your comments and answers to the questions, and you're a great guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It's been enjoyable. Very
good. Everyone in the chat room, thank you so much. I know, but he's got to go and have his tea, Lynn. He's got to go. It's late, and he's going to get... Yeah, he's hungry. You lot, I will see you Tuesday night for the last episode in this special series of What Arsenal Means to Me. It's going to be a family affair. My dad and my cousin are coming on. So God knows what's going to happen. It's going to be like we're travelling to Highbury in the car all those years ago, and you're going to hear what we're like. So please join us 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. David, go and have your tea. You've been amazing.
I'm off.
He's going. You lot in the chat room, go and have a great Friday night.
You take care. Thanks a lot, Amanda. Have a good night, everyone. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Take care. Bye. I'll stay for a few seconds just to finish off. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. Thank you for being me for the last 6 episodes. As I said, the 7th one's going to be my dad and my cousin. It is going to be funny. I don't know how I'm going to control this, but I'm going to try. That'll be next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Have a fabulous weekend, everyone. Thank you so much. Please press like and subscribe. And I love you all. But remember, and as my mum loves me saying, it's always Arsenal. It's always Arsenal. Good night.